That was a quick first hour. Let's hold on to hour number 2 a little closer, Prater. I don't want this show to end today, my friend.
Well, I wanted to end eventually, but let's soak up the next 2 hours and have some fun.
We're going to talk to a couple of head coaches this hour, one college football, the other professional hockey. We'll give you a chance to win a prize. And remember, keep listening for a chance to win Boise State BYU tickets on Saturday night. Until then, let's hop on over to the Fat Guys Fresh Deli Hotline, bring in head football coach to the Idaho Vandals, Jason Eck. Appreciate you, Eck. This is 3 weeks in a row we've had you on, and it's been a pleasure each and every time, Coach. Welcome. How's it going today?
It's going well. Good to be on. Talk to that hockey coach. When I'm down there recruiting, after the season, December, January, I might want to sneak over and catch a game. So
your boy Johnny can take care of you. He can hook you up. He knows where all the hidden tickets are, so we'll take care of you, Coach.
Oh yeah, we'll put you in a suite, Coach.
I appreciate
the full meal deal. All right, Coach. Tough loss, obviously, in Sacktown over the weekend. I'll start there. Great comeback. You took the lead with less than 2 minutes left and couldn't hold on to it. But what was the message to the team after losing a hard-fought game like that? Coach, good teams lose games, and sometimes bad teams even win games, bro.
I think it was a little feedback. We're not quite good enough yet. We got a good look right in the eye of what a Big Sky championship team looks like. Again, they won it the last 2 years they've played, and they're in great shape again to win it. And I think we hung in there with them and battled, but we got to get a little better. There's a lot of things in the game I think that showed up where they're just a little bit better than us, and it's back to work this week. I told the guys we need to have our best practice of the season today on Tuesday and continue to get better. And I think if we can do that, we can be a championship team down the road.
You're at home this week, next 2 weeks, by the way. Eastern Washington comes in with a 2-6 record. But this, Coach. Aaron Best and the Eagles would love nothing more than to put a big stink bomb onto your season and go into the dome and beat you guys. How do you keep the mentality of, hey, we still control everything we want to do this season is right there, but you obviously got to win this week and beat an Eastern team that is rarely struggling this season. They usually don't.
Yeah, this is going to break their streak. They've had 15 straight winning seasons. And so it's not like they don't have any players. I mean, they got a lot of talent when you flip on the video. Their receiver, number 2, Robinson's a heck of a player. So we got to play well. And, again, they embarrassed us last year. They beat us 70-21 and, really got after the butts of the Vandals. So we got to have a good showing. We got to have a great week of preparation, and we are excited to be back in front of the dome because that makes a difference. We're hoping for a great crowd. So some of you people are in Boise, drive up this weekend.
Talking to Idaho Vandals football coach Jason Eck, Idaho Vandals, Eastern Washington in the Kibbe Dome, 1:00 Boise time, Mountain time on Saturday. Coach, looking at the Sac State game and maybe a couple of other games, you obviously have a great knack for finishing strong. There's been a couple of games in there where maybe not so much starting strong. Are you satisfied with the starts you're getting, or are you looking for more consistent starts, and how do you do that?
Well, I think we got to be ready to go right from the jump, especially at home. Again, I attribute, maybe Sac State's game to Sac State being pretty good, and us not having a great start. But, we trailed in our 3 home games that we've won. We trailed against Drake, we trailed against Northern Colorado, we trailed against Portland State, and all 3 of those games we ended up winning by 20 points or more. So, to me that tells us that we weren't playing to our peak. And we've talked a little bit with our guys about our preparation. One big difference in FCS football is you're at the hotel when you're on the road, where you're sleeping in your own bed, which I think can be an advantage. But you got to do your same routine, make sure you're not getting distracted the night before. And be ready to go and start fast. And I think that's going to be critical against this team because Eastern can score points in bunches.
Wise coaches often tell me that you learn more from a loss than you do from a victory. You had won 5 consecutive football games, and then you lost Saturday. What did you learn about your football team?
Well, I think we got to be a little bit more physical. Anytime you're giving up close to 300 yards rushing, it's kind of remarkable that we were – it was a 3-point game. A lot of times you give up 300 yards rushing, you lose the game handily. We got to be a little bit more physical on both sides of the ball. We got to run it a little bit better. We got to keep doing a good job of tackling. I thought Sac State did a better job of tackling. Special teams factored in. It wasn't I don't think we got dominated in special teams, but we each kicked the field goal. They made theirs, and we missed ours, and it's a 3-point game. So, a lot of little things that we got to get better at as a team, and that was kind of my message to our assistant coaches is I wanted to have 2 things in every position group that we were going to focus on really improving on this week because we're a good football team. I think if we can improve a little bit over these next 3 weeks, we can be a very good football team and be a tough out, and I think we still, while we don't control our destiny for a conference championship, I still feel like we control our destiny for a playoff berth, which would be a great step for our program.
Did you have a good Halloween, Coach Eck? I wanted to go as Coach Eck. I need the visor and all this. Maybe I'll make that happen next year. But how'd you celebrate Halloween, pal?
Walkthrough, meetings and walkthrough. We didn't deviate for a schedule. I kind of, my assistant coach might think I'm a jerk because my little kids are still in South Dakota. They're moving out later this month. So I probably should have tweaked our schedule a little bit so the coaches could have snuck out and trick-or-treated with their kids. But they had trick-or-treating in the Dome last week where the kids got to dress up and come by. So the coaches saw them. But, we're kind of creatures of habit, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. We'll reprimand Johnny for that question afterwards. He's really good at asking questions, but he kind of blew that one, Coach. So what is a football?
Hey, we all blow things. It's part of the deal.
Well, Coach Eck, real quick. Coach Eck's oldest kid is 20. His youngest kid is 5. And
I have a 2-year-old.
Okay, 20 and 2. Same woman, same family. I mean, it's a large family. I thought maybe they had something going, but I forgot that they're not moving out till the end of the month, Prater. Sorry.
Well, you truly are a bachelor, Coach. I mean, I know it's all about work and the grind, but do you watch an occasional World Series game? Do you watch an occasional football game? Do you watch an occasional basketball game?
I do like to flip it on. The one thing that's a little tough on the West Coast is a lot of times if I'm getting done work and it's 9 or 10 o'clock, the games are getting over. I think there's some action on tonight, but the action games start at 4:30 our time.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm done for the night, they'll be all over. But I do like flipping on. Usually there's some West Coast NBA games you can watch a little bit, and I always enjoy it at the hotel. The night before the game, it was like Florida International played in overtime last Friday night before our game. So I was like watching those as well.
Coach, you're our running back committee, our BBC, I like to call them, Woods and Johnson. How do you and your staff decipher? Is it one series for a kid? Do you pull them out after a long run? I mean, both are having such terrific seasons. Has it been a challenge playing the hot hand or finding the time when you want Woods or when you want Johnson for particular scenarios on that? Because they're both studs, man.
Well, one thing that I really believe in offensively, and then Coach Schleisner, our offensive coordinator, really believes in offensively is, playing to guys' strengths. So we have a lot of things where we call different personnels to get what back we want in the game. Not just what receivers and tight ends we want, but what back we want in the game. We have certain backs we like to play a little bit more in short yardage, like Roshan and Andre Carter had a 20-yard gain on 3rd and 2 last week, and then Eli Cummings is probably our best back in the passing game, whether it's protection or running routes. And he's a good runner with the ball in his hand too. But Anthony's probably our best runner, Anthony Woods, as a true freshman. But occasionally, he had a mental bust in protection last week, and that happens with freshman backs. That's not, I'm not saying that derogatory. We got to keep doing a good job of coaching them and bringing them along. So we try to play to their strengths, try to ride the hot hand. Last week it ended up pretty even between the top 2 backs, between Cummings and Woods. I think one had 12. Woods had 12 carries. Cummings had 10. They both rushed for 62 yards. So, it was a solid day, but we got to keep getting better. We need to be rushing to be a championship team in this conference. I think we got to be rushing for over 200 yards, not 144.
Coach Jason Eck, Idaho Vandals. You've got 3 games left on your schedule. The next 2 are at home, Eastern and UC Davis. Then the season finale at Idaho State. You've talked about the playoffs, and you don't want to hear this, but your final 3 teams, none of them have winning records. There's a massive opportunity in front of you to win 8 games and get to the playoffs. How much pressure do you put on yourself in this program to get to the playoffs this season?
I didn't. That was our goal, but like going into the year, I didn't say, geez, we'd be devastated if we didn't make it. Now, I think where we are right now, I think we got to finish the deal because we put ourselves in a good position to do that.
Yep.
So I will be at this point disappointed if we don't make the playoffs where we're sitting now. Where going into the year, I don't think that would have depressed me. I kind of figured in my first 3 years I needed to make the playoffs for sure, and I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But we got to finish it. It's you look at the records, you think we have an easy path, but Eastern's been a perennial power in FCS football, so. All the players they recruited were recruited to a team. UC Davis was a playoff team last year. If you look at the losses of a lot of these teams, especially Eastern Washington, UC Davis, they've lost to good teams. They haven't lost to a lot of bad teams.
Coach, you've experienced the playoffs. You've won playoff games, obviously with the Jack Rabbits, and went on deep runs in a really cool tournament that not a lot of people pay attention to, but should. Your own players, I don't know if any transfers are there that have experienced this tournament before. You obviously have. What do you tell the guys? Do you tell them that in the team meeting room? Like, hey guys, we got 3 games ahead of us and we put ourselves in a position where we can make the playoffs this year. How do you describe that to the players? Do they know much about it?
Well, they don't. A few guys like Jabori Gibbs, who transferred from South Dakota State, was there with us. He's experienced the playoffs. A lot of our other transfers were either junior college or FBS transfers. So he might be the only guy in the team who's been a part of the FCS playoffs. Mm-hmm. But we made a point early. I told the guys early, don't be booking flights over Thanksgiving. And in the past, that's always been the deal where guys knew the season was over on Thanksgiving in FCS. So we talked about it early with that, and then. We've also had the thought, like with our strength and conditioning and our nutrition, that's been a message, from the start of the season is, hey, we got to take care of our bodies. We got to keep getting stronger throughout the year and eating right because, we're not expecting the season to end in November. We want to extend it beyond that.
Coach, I got to ask you something before we get out, and just a coaching question. I know you come from a coaching family. What went on in the tunnel at Michigan Stadium over the weekend? I'm sure you peeked over from afar, and what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think should have happened? I know it came out that I think several other Michigan State players have now been suspended, but they basically jumped a kid, and then a kid tried to defend that kid, and they jumped him too. Coach, we can't have that in college football. What do you think should happen as a result? How would you have handled something like that?
Well, I've been to Michigan before, when I was at Wisconsin. I do think it's a bad setup that they have where they have, this huge 100,000 seat stadium and they only have one tunnel, which is pretty rare, in college football. And, so one, I do think, James Franklin said it a few weeks ago that they should look at something there with redoing that. So I think that is certainly one thing, okay. But you got to make good decisions. You got to make good decisions as players. And I'm sure Coach Tucker's disappointed and, you never want to, suspend guys, but I do think one of the things that hits hardest to college football players is when you take the game they love away from them. And, we have a guy at our team who's playing very well from us now who we had to suspend for some, off, non-football reasons earlier this year. And really, the way he's responded since that has been outstanding. So I do, hopefully it's a great learning moment for those guys from Michigan State and they can learn from it and move on from going from here. But yeah, that is that's a shame. That's a shame to have that happen in college football.
Noon Mountain Time on Saturday in a little place called ESPN Plus, Idaho, hosting Eastern Washington. Prater?
Is it one Mountain?
One Mountain. Noon Pacific.
Okay.
Sorry. Come on. Get your TV schedule together.
Ruin this whole interview on that. Yeah. Watch Idaho. I know I'll be tuned in. And Coach, like I said, Eastern, they're coming to spoil your stinking season, man. Don't let it happen, Coach Eck. Let's get after EWU this Saturday, and hopefully we talk to you again next week, man. Good luck. Get after it.
Thank you. V's up.
V's up. Coach Eck, Idaho Vandals. Again, Eastern Washington coming into town. I wonder if they're going to bring some guys with them too. That's what's cool about the Big Sky, and why Prater was cool with Idaho taking this step down is you get these rivalries where you can drive to half of the road games you play each season. I think that's a cool thing about college football.
That is a cool thing about college football, but the step down wasn't a cool thing. It had to happen, but I certainly didn't want it, but it certainly needed to happen.
Yeah. It's one of those deals, man.
And the byproduct is that it's a more regional thing. And yeah.
Let's get to the playoffs this year, Vandals. And that's going to be fun when we get the Battle of the Domes going. Regal and Eck, we got to have some fun with those two guys before that game on Idaho Sports Talk. From one coach to another, Everett Sheen, the Steelheads, kind of the home opening weekend here. Steelheads are home all weekend. They play, Friday and Saturday night, Prater?
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And they played two more. They played two last weekend at home. So they're in the middle of a 5-game homestand.
Love it. We'll have the hockey show immediately following Idaho Sports Talk. Everett Sheen, Steely's head coach. We come back on Prater on the Ballgame.
From the Beacon Plumbing